I'm Jeff Cornwall, and this is the Entrepreneurial Mind. Today our guest is Bettie Kirkland. We'll be back to talk with her after this.
Talkapolis programming is sponsored in part by the Vein Center, now celebrating 10 years service in Nashville, Tennessee.
So Bettie, you work with a nonprofit agency called Project Return.
That's right.
And talk a little bit about what Project Return, their big picture services are, and then I want to focus in on kind of one thing that you've been working on for the last couple of years.
Sure. So Project Return works with the men and women who are coming back to our community from incarceration by the hundreds every year. And our primary focus is employment because that's the number one predictor of their crime-free, productive future. But we wrap that around with a whole array of service provision because they have so many immediate needs. Many people coming out face a level of destitution that I can hardly grasp. And they also face the stigma of having a criminal background. And even though they've done their time and paid their debt, it is a series of nearly insurmountable barriers for them that we really work to get over.
So the funding from this is all through foundation kind of work or private donations, or
we're healthily supported through different government funding that's competitive and difficult to get, and we're always in the throes of a new search. We also get good support from foundations and some private funders. So it's that sort of typical nonprofit quest for a well-rounded support. But I will say, the more that we can garner community support, the more we also kind of are able to live their affirmation and their buy-in. So that's really our priority.
But that whole mountain of fundraising has become a more difficult mountain to climb, particularly the last 10 years or so. And so, from what I understand, you came in at about a time to this nonprofit when they were looking to start their own social enterprise to help generate cash flow. Is that correct?
Slightly. They weren't looking, but then soon they were.
Okay.
So
right.
I got there about 4 years ago, and we've been on a great run. We actually launched our social enterprise 23 months ago.
Okay.
We started building a business model, got a little seed funding, and the model is just very simple. It's a transitional jobs initiative. We know that people in Nashville, companies large, small, medium, have workforce needs. We know that we have really motivated job seekers coming to Project Return, starting with us every day. And so to match those up in a way that works for both sides, is beneficial for both sides, was our simple idea. We were and we still are, helping motivated job seekers get to companies that need employees. But in the meantime, we run a transitional jobs program where we can hire our folks rather immediately, put them to work on a temporary basis. And we do this through contracts with companies in the community that have workforce needs. And frankly, sometimes they're not sure about our match with them, and they find out by starting with us that it's a great match. We put great people on the job.
So talk a little bit about that whole process. How did Project Return decide to do this, and kind of how did this kind of take birth? Because it's a very different kind of a business model from a traditional nonprofit to have a revenue generating business basically inside of their walls.
It is. That's a great question. I think that part of it is that we want to live our own sort of corporate values, if you will. We want to let our culture dictate our direction, and our culture is very much aligned with our participants. They come in determined. They are determined against the odds. They are resilient, and they are facing things that maybe our community might say they're not going to be able to accomplish. And so if you think of it that way, it's easier to imagine that we, sitting around our nonprofit, would imagine revenue-generating possibilities that also benefit the people we're trying to benefit.
Well, and the thing I think that makes your model stand out to me, at least, is that it still is close to what you do. it still is.
Absolutely.
It's still in the employment field. I've seen
Yeah.
a lot of nonprofits get distracted by doing social enterprises that have nothing to do with their business model, whereas this really has everything to do with your business model.
Yes, you could say we're obsessive. We're not easily distracted.
Right.
I mean, we love being that way. We love that it all sort of lines up. And in fact,
It's all about jobs. It's all about employment.
It's all about jobs. It's
Right.
all about employment, and it's also all about every one of those individuals that's coming through and really looking to us, knowing that they want a new beginning. They know that there's a fork in the road that they're standing at, and
Right.
they know that, you know, there's a good path and a not a good path.
Right.
And so coming to us is their way of saying, you know, I've heard about you all. You know, I want to believe that it's true. Let's get going. And so we line up with that. And we also realize that this thing about looking for jobs can take time. And so to be able to provide them a transitional opportunity in between that not only gives them a little wage, gives them a reference base outside of incarceration, but it also gives them that proof. It's like a proof of concept for an
Sure.
individual.
Sure.
And so we love just having that all line up that way. One thing we were able to do after our first full year was look back and really assess, did we stay, was there fidelity to our concept? Did we pivot where we were supposed to pivot? All of those things.
Right.
But one of the great things that we discovered was that in fact it had been truly a transitional job opportunity for people. And by that I mean our intention is that no one stays on it longer than 3 months. They're meant to move on. We're
Right.
propelling.
Right.
And so, in fact, when we did crunch the numbers at the end of 12 months, we saw that the average was 9.75 weeks on the job, and we said, we didn't get people stuck. We didn't get ourselves stuck. Like, this thing is truly moving the way it's meant to move and growing.
And your corporate partners are happy with.
They are. We've decided to do a wall in our situation room that's just, I don't know what you call it, but the kind of paint that you can write on.
Sure.
Because we're getting these adjectives that we can't get enough of. When we hear an employer say that our workers are conscientious, we're over the moon. When we hear them talk about how people get to them on time, we know that's Project Return, making it happen right. And so we're very pleased with that. We're getting referrals from our corporate partners for more corporate partners.
That means you're doing good business. So is this something that's already having an impact on the funding of the agency itself? Have you gone beyond break even, and are you making a contribution?
We are actually generating revenue, but the issue right now is we're continuing to grow. And so just about the time that we reach a certain point, then we need to hire more people.
You're facing the challenge every entrepreneur has.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so, but we know we have, we have our figures about the economies of scale and how we need to move. And so it's moving in the right direction. And I think that the exciting thing for us too is that prospective funders can see us in a different light because we're running a business and we're running it successfully.
What a great story. Thanks for coming and sharing it today.
Thank you very much.